PJ Duke or Tyler Kasak? Well, you can't go wrong with either one, but it seems like we got our answer, and I think it's the right decision by Cael Sanderson.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State Wrestling. My name is Zach Seyko, and I'm your host as always. Thank you so much for checking out another edition of Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily source for all things Penn State sports. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network out there. We're going to talk about Josh Barr's injury. So Media Day is in the books for Penn State Wrestling. The season is officially underway. We got an update on Josh Barr, what his timeline, we're going to project what his timeline is he's going to miss some time. So we'll get an update there, but we got lineup updates to discuss. Heavyweight, Aaron Nagao or Braeden Davis, redshirting Masanosuke Ono, PJ Duke or Tyler Kasak. That is where we're going to begin. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Friendly reminder to let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Be a part of the conversation. So we will talk about PJ Duke and Tyler Kasak first, what the answer is, what it's going to be, and why Penn State and Cael Sanderson are making the right decision. So let's begin there. It seems like Cael Sanderson tipped his hat a little bit, showed the cards in his hand, because when he was talking about team players and guys doing what's best for the team, he alluded to the fact that Tyler Kasak and Braeden Davis may end up taking red shirts, and he says, it looks like I'm talking about the lineup or sharing inside reports to the lineup there. So all signs continue to point that PJ Duke is going to be the guy at 157, and we'll talk about Aaron Nagao later at 141. Heavyweight is still somewhat of a mystery, though. We'll get to that too. But Duke over Kasak, I mean, you can't go wrong either way. I believe that Penn State has both of the top 157-pounders in the country. 1A and 1B are both in State College. So you can't go wrong with either of them. Duke gives you a national title contender as a true freshman. Tyler Kasak gives you a title contender as, well, a true junior, but seems to be going through this redshirt season. So why go with Duke when he is a true freshman, and redshirt Tyler Kasak when he's been winning? He's been close. He's taken third place multiple times. Well, Penn State's being strategic with this. I'm sure there were wrestle-offs that we'll never formally know the results to, but there is a reason that they are going with Duke over Kasak. It also benefits them in terms of logistics. Duke just won a U20 world title and was pretty impressive on the senior level. Even though he didn't medal on the senior level, certainly impressed by who he was defeating along the way, right? A Ridge Lovett, who was a defending NCAA champion, or an Antrell Taylor, who is also a defending NCAA champion. Tyler Kasak also beat him in the regular season of the NCAA season. And then Duke goes on to beat Yianni Diakomihalis. And again, just this run that he had in freestyle, I get it, it's freestyle compared to folk style, but the run that Duke had, the opponents that he was defeating, is very telling of what his career is going to be at Penn State. But you also have Kasak, who just finished third place at NCAAs and then wrestled all the way back in consolations to take third place his true freshman season. And it seems like Kasak is still getting better. So the initial indicator was that, oh, well, he's wrestling at the Bill Farrell tournament and it's freestyle, so therefore Kasak's getting a head start on his freestyle career. Okay, let's read the tea leaves. This seems right. This is a good guess. There's evidence here that, because why would Kasak enter in this tournament if he wasn't going to redshirt? Why would he be focusing on freestyle if he's the guy at 157? But in that process, you know, all tournaments, and every wrestler will say this too, you can never practice enough, you can never compete enough, it will make you better one way or another. But Kasak goes into that tournament. Someone else who's taking a surprise red shirt this season, and Caleb Henson over from Virginia Tech, who would have been most likely the odds-on favorite at 149, depending on who you ask. But for the most part, most people would say that Henson would be the favorite at 149. Kasak defeats him 6-3 at this tournament. So can you really go wrong with either of them, right? Again, I know it's freestyle, but still, defeating these kinds of caliber of opponents, it is impressive to say the least. So why Duke? Why go with him? Well, you're not going to have Duke. You're not going to have PJ Duke at 157 forever. And that's what Penn State's doing a lot of gymnastics here with the lineup and the logistics of it. But you'll have PJ Duke as a true freshman at 157 because you don't get him there forever. Eventually, he's going to bulk up naturally. 165, maybe 174 down the road. That's what you're trying to do, is maximizing what you have with Duke at 157. So if you get him as a title contender at 157, then he takes the red shirt next season, and then he can bulk up to 165. Maybe he goes all the way up to 174 immediately. I mean, Tyler Kasak's initial outlook was to redshirt at 141 and then bulks all the way up to 157. So now Kasak's taking the red shirt, and then and who ultimately knows, right? Is Messenbrink going to go to 74 for a season? Would Kasak end up being at 65? And then you have Joe Seeley. Okay, so there's so many different lineup possibilities for next year. But the idea is to capitalize on PJ Duke while you have him at 157, because he's not going to be at 157 forever. You have the flexibility to redshirt Tyler Kasak. You have the flexibility to end up redshirting PJ Duke if necessary. Here's the luxury with Duke as a true freshman, is that you do get that 5-match grace period where he can actually wrestle 5 matches. And if something changes, or Penn State, right, Cael Sanderson changes his mind, you have Tyler Kasak ready to go. And then he ends up he wouldn't take that red shirt, right? That's a different timeline. But it's a possibility. The point I'm trying to make here is that Penn State has the depth. So whether it's for, again, I don't like speaking it into existence, but injuries are a thing. You have 2 title contenders sitting at 157. You might as well maximize logistically what you have with PJ Duke. Let Tyler Kasak go through a redshirt season and then bring him back and have PJ Duke do the same thing next year. Here's the case for Duke taking the red shirt, which again, you can't go wrong. So I agree with the reasoning, but I am for Duke wrestling at 157 for the season that you have him. He's ready to go as a true freshman. There are no weaknesses in his game. There are just none. The only thing that you could argue is inexperience, because he is a true freshman, but he will learn accordingly. Okay. He will be a title contender right out of the gate. No questions asked. But Duke's wrestled a ton. And I think Penn State will get their answer on if that's going to be an issue or not. I've also, having these conversations outside of the podcast, hey, Duke's dealt with injuries before, and he has wrestled a ton in freestyle. So maybe just give him a break. Maybe just give him time to train and just focus on technique, and then unleash him after that redshirt season, because he will be so much better as a redshirt freshman as opposed to a true freshman. So going through that year of training in Penn State's mat room, which, again, hard to argue against, but like I said, logistically, you want to get Duke at 157 while you can. Either way, you're getting a national title contender, whether it is Duke or Kasak. So right now, it's tentatively Duke, because things can change. Kasak is right there, and after 5 matches or whatever, maybe Penn State changes its mind. I'm just saying it's not a 100% certainty that this is going to be the situation. But right now, it is Duke, the starter at 157, until further notice. Tyler Kasak, as Cael Sanderson said, will most likely, it is likely that he will redshirt. It's not, he didn't say it was guaranteed. It is likely that he will redshirt. So still a to be determined, but we at least have our answer for the short term. Also, other answers that we got. Redshirting Masanosuke Ono. There's eligibility questions there. Why? The reasoning why Cael Sanderson is going to redshirt the prodigy from Japan. He's a senior level world champion, and you're going to redshirt him. Plus, Aaron Nagao over Braeden Davis seems to be the likely result. We're going to talk about that coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And this episode is brought to you by Gametime. We all love college football. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why you got to use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. You can pull up Gametime, and in just a couple of taps, you'll see amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games for as low as $25. And you can even get Penn State Wrestling tickets on Gametime. One of the best features about Gametime is the point of view. So ahead of time, if you've never been to a venue, you've never been to a stadium, you get to see from your selected seats your point of view ahead of time, so you're not second guessing your decision. So take that guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Redshirting a world champion and Masanosuke Ono. That's crazy to think, but it seems to be the likely outcome here. We're going to also talk about 141 because why not wrestle Ono at 133, bump up Marcus Blaze to 141, vice versa. There's so many directions that Penn State can go in. Once again, I want to point out the depth. Anything can happen. We'll talk about Josh Barr later on, as well as the battle at heavyweight, but Penn State is trying to cultivate depth. You have Marcus Blaze at 133. You have Masanosuke Ono at 133. At 141, you have Aaron Nagao. You have Braeden Davis. They are all comparable to one another. 133 is a little more certainty, has a little more upside, if you will, right? Because Marcus Blaze is a title contender. 133 is loaded. I'm not saying this is the likely result and that he should be, he's the number one wrestler. But Blaze, you can't go wrong with Blaze. You can't go wrong with Ono at 133. Same thing with Aaron Nagao and Braeden Davis. Now, there isn't as much upside, and 141 is, I'm gonna stick with my title pick of Jesse Mendez over a Brock Hardy, but those two seem to control the 141-pound weight class. But Nagao and Davis are both former All-Americans. They have peaked when they're at their best as a top 5 wrestler. So you have a title contender and a former world champion just ready to go, ready to be unleashed at any point in time with Ono. Ergo, 2 title contenders at 133, 2 All-America caliber wrestlers at 141 with, again, hey, I'm not trying to discount Nagao and Davis. It is an uphill battle, but again, these are guys that you would like to think that they're going to capitalize and be able to take that step forward at 141 after finishing in 5th place once upon a time. So we'll get to Nagao and Davis in a second. I do want to focus on Ono because it is bold of Penn State and Cael Sanderson to redshirt the wrestler that they recruited from Japan. He's a defending senior level world champion from 2024, and you're just going to redshirt him. The issue has to do with eligibility because if you listen to Cael Sanderson, and the Cael Sanderson press conference is posted up here on the Locked On Nittany Lions YouTube channel. If you listen to Sanderson closely, it's not a decision that they're making lightly or that they're not willing to reconsider. As of right now, as the eligibility stands, listen to him closely because he's talking about how things could change. Things could be different. You want to maximize your longevity with Ono. So if he gets a redshirt season, as of right now, as it stands, it has to do kind of similarly with PJ Duke and Tyler Kasak, where you can't go wrong with Marcus Blaze and Ono, but you need to maximize the logistics. If right now, today, in the middle of November, the eligibility rules say that Ono gets a redshirt season and then 1 year in the varsity lineup. Well, there's really nothing you could do. So what is the point ultimately of having him wrestle the year before and then redshirting him the next year? Because what might end up happening is those eligibility rules change. And if they change, because they're not guaranteed to stay the same, if they do change, you get him to redshirt, and then potentially you get 2 years of eligibility in the lineup so that he could wrestle next year and the year after. That's what Sanderson's alluding to, is to say that, okay, as of right now, it is in our best interest overall for the lineup for the program to redshirt Ono today. But if things change with the eligibility tomorrow, then maybe we reconsider. So that's kind of the situation here. If the eligibility rules look different, I bet you that Ono would get into the lineup. But again, Penn State just has so much flexibility. Redshirt Ono, redshirt Blaze, table that for one season, save another for another year, and you can't go wrong. You really can't. Blaze is ready to go at 133. He is going to be as impressive, like a PJ Duke. All three of them. Said it before on previous podcasts. How would you rank them? Because Ono, I think, counts as a recruit in the class of 2025. Is Duke 1A, Blaze is 1B, and Ono's 1C? Or do you, because he's coming from a freestyle background and doesn't have a lot of experience in folk style, shuffle them anyway. Everybody's going to say something different as far as who is the top three, but Penn State did get the top three recruits from the class of 2025. Ono hasn't wrestled in folk style much, so there is that learning curve. Cael talked about how, him being a student and adjusting to his time in State College and Penn State as someone, taking classes at an American university. That is something also worth considering. Managing weight. Instead of just one tournament, you have to be able to manage your weight week by week for these dual meets. So that's all things that Ono has to adjust to. Not saying that's difficult for him, but you got to make sure, right? Therefore, if the eligibility rules are going to change, it is in Penn State's best interest now. But you do have him ready to go at potentially 133 or 141 or even 125. He was supposed to be in the Bill Farrell tournament at 57 kilos. That didn't end up working out. Why that was the case, not entirely sure. But he can be a backup at all three of those weights. And Ono has said that before. I'll wrestle any of those weights. I'm capable of going at any of those classes. Now, Aaron Nagao or Braeden Davis. I like Aaron Nagao a ton. Getting to hear from him today at Media Day. I'm just somebody that he belongs at Penn State. And for all the people that are saying, oh, Nagao, why did he transfer in? He should transfer out. He should go back to Minnesota. He clearly wants to be at Penn State. He made that as clear as day today. Nagao, though, does have uncertainty, question marks. Okay, you deal with a long-term injury. It's not a guarantee that you're going to hit the ground running as you get back into the lineup. And that's still to be determined, but I think, again, with what Cael said today, with the way that, with other things being reported, that Nagao is going to be the guy at 141. He doesn't have a red shirt. So it makes sense for Davis to take his red shirt and allow Nagao to go at 141. Nagao bulking up from 133, right? Again, there's just uncertainty. Is Nagao going to return to that perennial All-American where he's top 5? Maybe he can even do better since he's at Penn State. But he clearly has no questions, no qualms about staying at Penn State, biding his time, and getting back to full form. I like Nagao at 141 over Davis because I do think Nagao is a better offensive wrestler. And overall, I think that's going to give him a little more upside in this lineup and at the NCAA tournament. Now, never say never. If things change, maybe they have a wrestle-off at the Army Black Knight Invitational. It is likely that Davis goes through a red shirt, but I think the right decision is having Nagao there at 141, letting Davis go through the redshirt season, and then figuring it out moving forward. It is going to get pretty complicated next season, okay? Because what do you do with Nagao, Davis back from a red shirt? You're going to have Marcus Blaze. You're going to have Ono coming off of a redshirt season. It gets really complicated at 133 and 141 for next season. So it is interesting where Penn State is punting on some situations in the lineup and going with others in this regard. That's all I'm saying, is it's just going to get really crowded next year at some of these lightweight classes. But Nagao, I'm fully confident in his ability and kind of was expecting him to push Davis. If Nagao was healthy, I was expecting Nagao to push Davis for this 141 spot. It does not surprise me in the slightest that he's ready to go and he's going to be the starter in this Penn State lineup. Now, what I'm unsure of, not Josh Barr. Josh Barr seems to be doing just fine, but we did get an update on his injury that he sustained at the U23 World Championships. It's going to keep him out for a little bit. Cael explained why, but heavyweight, that's what I'm unsure about. Are we certain that Cole Mirasola is going to be the guy for the entirety of the season at heavyweight. Well, Lucas Cochran is going to push him for that starting spot. We're going to talk about it next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And lines are available for Penn State football, and you can use bonus bets on anything: NFL, NBA, college football. So Penn State, 7.5-point favorite against Michigan State, minus 285 on the money line, plus 230 if you're thinking Sparty for the upset. The total is set at 49.5. If you like those lines, you can bet them over at FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. And remember, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Let's pick back up with Josh Barr's injury and what it is, timeline for his return, timeline to figure out the starting heavyweight between Cole Mirasola and Lucas Cochran. Josh Barr, though, saw him around the wrestling room today. Looks fine. You wouldn't know that he had an injury if you didn't watch the U23 World Championships or if Cael Sanderson didn't give us the update that he did. But the update that Coach gave us was that it is a short-term injury. Barr is working his way back. So it sounds like he's not going to be in the lineup for a little bit. Is that a month? Is that 2 months? Here's the thing that Penn State has going for them is that they can play this safe. They don't have to rush Barr back. Oh, 197. What are you going to do at 197? It goes back to my original point. Look at how Penn State continues to cultivate depth. They have Connor Mirasola waiting behind Josh Barr at 197. They feel so strongly about what Josh Barr and Connor give them at 197 that they bulk Lucas Cochran all the way up to heavyweight. So you have a national title contender again, not to necessarily the extent of PJ Duke and Tyler Kasak, in my opinion, but I think Connor is closer to being a fringe title contender than he's somebody that would miss the podium altogether and not be an All-American. So it's not easy for me to declare to say that, right now anyway, that Josh Barr and Connor Mirasola are 1A and 1B. But I am confident, and so is Penn State, I am confident enough in Connor Mirasola to be a guy that anchors that spot until Josh Barr is ready to go so that you don't have to rush him back from a rib injury, so that he doesn't have the chance to re-aggravate it. He can go through a full recovery, and Connor already went through the redshirt season, so he's going to be ready to go. Regardless, there's no, does it benefit them logistically? And Connor talked about it in an interview. He said that, I was ready to go because we didn't know Barr's status going in after the Big Ten tournament last year. So while we don't have a clear timeline for when Barr's going to return, here's what we do know. Not out for the season. It's not a long-term injury. A short-term, evaluate it probably week to week. I would say at least a month, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 6 weeks. Again, that is my personal opinion. I'm not reporting that from an inside perspective or anything like that. Just trying to read what Cael Sanderson's trying to say. You don't want to rush him back. If it ends up being after January, that would not surprise me in the slightest either. But you give Barr the opportunity to go through a full recovery because, as Cael put it, hey, a rib injury is nothing to mess around with. Even though this isn't a serious situation, just monitor it. Let Barr work his way back on his own timeline. And you have Connor Mirasola, again, who is only going to get better. He is projected as a future national title contender. He very well could be that second best 197-pounder as he continues to accumulate matches. So today, in the middle of November, do I think Connor Mirasola is the second best 197-pounder in the country? Not necessarily. But in due time, you put these two, let's just say for the hypothetical part of the conversation, eventually Barr and Mirasola will be the top two at 197 as time progresses. Just right now, though, He's definitely in that top 5 range. I will say that conservatively. Then we get to heavyweight. Heavyweight is a big question mark, to say the least, for a variety of reasons. I don't know who the starter is. Penn State, I don't even think knows who the starter is. Well, Cole Mirasola just took a medal at the U20 World Tournament. But Lucas Cochran, do not discount him. This is a lot closer. This is more of a toss-up than some people may be led to believe. I'm kind of anticipating that Cochran might end up taking the heavyweight spot. Now, we'll come back to the show maybe at some point in time and whether I'm right or wrong, but we're kind of in a situation where you're not wrong to go with Kasak, you're not wrong to go with Duke, you're not wrong to go with Nagao, you're not wrong to go with Davis. It's the same thing here at heavyweight, different circumstances though, because I don't expect either of these guys to win a national title this season. All-American, yeah, that is certainly in the realm of possibility, but it's still a crowded heavyweight class. Even though Gable Steveson and Wyatt Hendrickson, they both move on. This is a weight class that just, you add in an AJ Ferrari. You get back a younger Bastida from injury. Guys like Luke Luffman get an extra year of eligibility. You still have a Ben Keeter of Iowa, right? Just to name a few. Heavyweight is very crowded. But who gives you more upside there? Well, Cochran. Okay, so Mirasola is winning world medals at heavyweight, at the U20 level. Okay, so he's adjusting accordingly, but don't forget that Cochran moved up to the heavyweight class and defeated a top 10 wrestler and Slava Kuski when he was at Rutgers, and a true heavyweight. And Cael talked about that at Media Day today and said that, hey, he was around 205 pounds, give or take, and went out there and beat a true heavyweight in a folk style match. Do not discount Cochran. I am not going to. And here's the thing with this battle is there is no timeline. There's no red shirt. There's no anything else. Cochran, a grad student at this point, because he has graduated. So he's a grad. He has the grad student eligibility for Penn State. And Cole Mirasola went through his redshirt season. So now it's a matter of figuring it out on a day-to-day basis. There might be a wrestle-off after January. Who knows? But it's not going to be solved immediately. Army Black Knight Invitational. That's going to be an important turning point for these guys. Cochran, all things that I've heard from Cael today and then talking to people and having other conversations, and of course Jeff Byers here on this show, that he is ready for this moment to push Cole Mirasola for the spot at heavyweight. Again, Cole is giving up a lot of size, not only weight, but height as well. Lucas is slightly taller than him, so there is that a little bit of an athletic advantage. So when it comes to Cole, he's going to have to find other ways to get his own competitive advantages back. It's a toss-up here. This is a truly to be determined. It would not surprise me if you want me to give you a prediction right now. I do think that Lucas Cochran will end up being the starting heavyweight as he continues to adjust. The thing that Cole does have going for him is that he's been training at this and focusing on it, because Cochran was a 197-pounder last season, while Cole was developing as a heavyweight. He's been training, he's been competing full time. So that's where Cole has the advantage, time. But as Lucas continues to close that gap, I do think we could see Cochran as the heavyweight starter for the majority of this season, and most importantly, at NCAAs. But to be determined. That's where we're going to wrap things up on this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions as we get some clarity from Penn State Wrestling Media Day. The season is finally here. Plenty of coverage all across the board here on Locked On Nittany Lions. So if you are new to the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts so that you do not miss any of these conversations about Penn State wrestling. Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions, and I'll see you again very soon to talk about your favorite Penn State sports teams.